Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by the Friends of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
Everybody's just folks, just plain old folks. Everybody just people all over the world. Folks to live, folks got to give, folks got to care, ooh, folks got to share. Our world is small, so very small. What touches one of us, ooh, touches us all. To stay alive, just to survive, folks got to be in harmony. Everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody's just folks, everybody just folks, just plain old folks, just plain old folks. Everybody's just folks.
Hello and welcome to Folks. Tonight, Folks goes to the theater to profile men and women who are continuing the ancient tradition of transferring human emotion into drama. Practically every civilization on Earth has had some form of the theater. More than 1,000 years ago, the ancient Greeks used to crowd in the amphitheaters like this to watch performances that reflected the humor, tragedies, and life of the times. For the ancient Greeks, as well as other civilizations, theater was part of the cultural experience. Today, the theater has been upstaged by the movies and television, forcing the art form on stage into the wings of time. However, there are individuals who are determined to not only keep the theater from extinction, but also expose it to those who have never seen a live performance.
Myself, I think I was the first time I went inside of a theater, I think I was about 23, 24, the first play I ever saw. And, you know, the third play I was in. And the first play my mother ever saw, and my sister, who was a year younger than I am, was the first play I was in.
For many black Louisianians, the theater is as much removed from their lives as red beans and rice are a part of it.
Still, I don't think that black people have had proper exposure to theater yet. In Baton Rouge, our houses at supper, many nights are 75 to 80, sometimes 90% white. And we're talking about a market where the tickets aren't even that high. The school that I graduated from, which was in equivalent to the bottom in Baton Rouge, they didn't take us, you know, they didn't take us off the block.
Just the exposure wasn't there.
Just the exposure wasn't there, and it's still, for the most part, not there.
During the summer, one Baton Rouge man set a goal to expose as many black and white Louisiana people to the theater as could fill the seats. Composer Valerian Smith defied the odds by staging his musical play Supper to sell out audiences in the Baton Rouge Little Theater. Supper's success in front of the racially mixed hometown audience surprised everyone, including Smith. After all, a play that doesn't have any sex scenes or violence, which is about black people enjoying black experiences and relating to other black people, doesn't necessarily guarantee success. But it did generate enough curiosity to entice a lot of people to come to the theater for the very first time. Supper's setting is the Bottom, one of Baton Rouge's oldest and poorest neighborhoods. The occasion is the weekend supper to raise money for the Path to Glory Baptist Church. As the play unfolds and the characters tell their story, a new kind of cultural identity is displayed that many regular theater goers can't grasp.
I know the person who criticized this musical Supper said that it had no conflict. And he couldn't see the conflict that was there. The very deep conflict in this young black male who did not know who his father was, did not know who his mother was, did not know his grandfather. The only person he knew in his life was his grandmother. It's difficult for a person who has had a pretty normal lifestyle and know his heritage to understand the conflict. That is the deepest kind of conflict. And that's the conflict that brings about these other things that become physical that people read about in the papers and load up the prisons. They don't understand that.
You don't know sorrow until you feel it. You don't know sorrow until it comes. Come and sit right on your doorstep and make you hum.
Perhaps the most promising aspect of Supper's success is the fact that because it is a black play, just a few years ago, it wouldn't have been produced in Louisiana.
One time we wanted to go into Little Theater and we couldn't get in. We wanted to do Anna Kashka in the Little Theater about 20 years ago, and they told us no, because no black folk were allowed in the Little Theater. So just recently, we came up with this production of Supper, which we did with the Baton Rouge Community Chorus, with local talent, brought in a director, of course, and we went back into their little theater. This time they accepted us because of integration, and it's the longest running show that's been in their theater and brought more people to that theater than any production that's ever been in there.
While the industry is getting better with its racial attitudes by accepting black-oriented theater, certain invisible setbacks continue to exist. For the most part, black people as a whole don't attend the theater on a regular basis. Usually economics plays a major role in keeping the black patron away, and white audiences usually won't support a black performance unless it is an unquestionable hit.
I think that theater, what happens in theater in this country is reflective of what happens in the society at large. People like to see themselves. They like to see themselves reproduced. Those are the images that they like to identify with. And the mainstream like to see themselves, and they don't see themselves in black people. Maybe if it were the other way, you know, we would be doing the same thing. But there are some very, very strong economic sort of questions that arise out of that basis and out of that foundation. I think that the mainstream is quite willing to bend over backwards and hire more black actors and more, create more shows if they thought that they could in fact make money off of that. I mean, it seems to be more capitalistic than racist and bigoted.
Unemployment for black actors and actresses is another stumbling block that keeps black theater unpredictable.
I wouldn't say it's racism, and I don't know what it is. I know people who are in theater, who I know, kids who I know who I've worked with in theater in Washington and New York and California are not working as much as they would like. And the discussion, of course, in Hollywood is always about the industry. That's all they talk about. That's all they know. I mean, the rest of the world could just be bombed out, you know, and they wouldn't know about it, you know, unless it were put on film for them, unless they're going to make a movie of it. But, and that was all the talk about how there is no work for all these black folk. And they were all there, and all of them unemployed. And I'm saying, well, what you need to do is to get your own piece, do your own thing on any level, and just come up with a product that's so good that nobody can say, I don't want this. Just make it so good, so enticing that they will have to accept it. The people are just upset about the fact that there is no work for, and I don't know who's to blame, really. You can't say it's in casting, or you could say it's in casting. I don't know whether it's the producers, but I think there has been maybe some concerted effort. Once blacks, I think, began to move into production, and they say, hey, we can do this ourselves. We can make our own movies. We can make the money from it. But some of the greatest productions, I think, are done on small budgets. Ideas. Ideas that work, that don't cost a tremendous amount of money. A good example is what possibly we've done here, going into the Little Theater with Supper, which is a low-cost, low-budget production to get it off the ground. I've always felt that, look, if you don't want me to come to your house, then I'm going to invite you to my house. And I'm going to make it so enticing for you, and I'm going to be so gracious to you and so loving to you that sooner or later you're going to invite me to come to your house.
Man, my pocket wouldn't know how to act with some money ever. What you talking about? You know, we could be the enterprising young dudes from the valley. We could score a couple pounds of some good smoke, break it down, off the bug profit, keep some of the merchandise.
All right, something to take the pressure off the head.
Man, look, I saw this bad 6-day Malibu was cheap, had good body potential. Now that would be a good investment.
Yeah, like we could put some nice chrome rims on it, man.
Yeah.
Put some big mad tires on it. Put some nice bucket seats in it, man. Throw us a 350 engine in, the light cams, and new headers with dual exhaust. Throw a nice paint job on it, man. You talking about looking good and sounding good.
Hey, man, look, I was talking to this cat who copied his fan sound system worth about $1,100.
Yeah? How much you want for it?
He wants $150 for it.
We could do better than that.
What I told him.
Yeah. Why don't we rip him off?
Hey, all right. Hey, look, man, we can throw that off now with the bad jets and speakers, man. We can jam.
Man, you talking about jamming, we're gonna be cold-blooded. We could throw in some carpet and some suede seats and tinted windows, doors, some racing stripes, and a sunroof top. Man, it's gonna show as good as it shines.
Yeah. And how about we throw some air shocks on there, man, so we can low ride like our Latin brothers out there in LA. Throw in floor on the floor, we ready.
Hey, man, let me get this right.
Hey, don't leave, bro.
Hey, man, turn this corner right here, man. Hey, man, look at that fine chick there. Hey, come on, get this guy, boy. Hey, man, watch that tree, man. Man, slow this mother down. Where you get your license from? TJ ain't that better, man?
Yeah, that is smooth.
Much better.
Hey, y'all, look. Here comes Fred and his ragged new Seville, man. Fred got a CB, that big shiny piece of junk. That's so all gonna catch you, man.
Hey, wait a minute, that's one other thing he got that we ain't got.
What's that?
He got it, man, the ride. And we don't.
Oh, man, stop this ride. I'm ready. What time?
What is the image that black people should have portrayed up there on the stage or on the screen, or you as a black actor? What are you trying to get across?
I don't necessarily have a sort of set understanding like many people about what actors or what the kind of images should be portrayed. You know, I liked people had really a lot of problems. I mean, 60s, early 70s with movies like Superfly. I really enjoyed Superfly very much, and they talked about it being image making and talked about young blacks having identity crisis with that, and then setting a wave in motion. Now, see, I didn't find that to be the case at all. And the reason that Superfly worked for me is for once, what they didn't understand is Superfly worked so well because Ron O'Neal works so well. You know what I'm saying? So I saw it as an actor doing a fine job at what he did. Not only that, I grew up around that kind of behavior, people who exhibited that kind of behavior, and it was so succinct. I mean, his movements, everything was so very clear. Now, I don't think that it was necessarily a glorification of the fast life or of hustlers, as much as it cut a slice of life, black life, and it made that statement. Just as and I think that we should be able to make a statement about any segment of black life that we choose to. What black actors and actresses are trying to do now is cut across lines of roles that weren't necessarily written or scripted for blacks.
For many black actors and actresses, there are certain roles that are scripted specifically for the black experience. However, it's universal in appeal.
Yes, but if you look only because it is black, then I think there's something phony about that. I think it should be good.
Baby, I worked on the railroad. I was a Pullman car porter. We waited tables at the dining car.
I wish I could ride on the train. Me too.
Well, now you see, baby, trains, that was the only way to go. Now, nowadays you fly. Look, I tell you, You see how you see them pretty stewardesses on the plane?
Yeah.
Well, we were the pretty porters on the train. That's true. We had to look pretty. Yeah. We had to smell pretty. And we had to be pretty. That's right. Now, let me tell you, you know how we be moving and grooving with everything all together. You know, with finesse. What you call cool. Oh, yeah. Now, you see, at first, trying to walk down the little bitty aisles with a whole tray full of glasses and food and stuff, you know, it was kind of hard. And at first, you know, it was kind of awkward for me. But let me tell you something. When Mr. Leo finally put it all together. All right. When I finally figured out how to do it, let me tell you, I was absolutely stepping. Ooh, let me tell you, I had everything moving and grooving, and that train would be kicking along at 70 miles an hour.
17 miles!
70 miles, that's straight business. Let me tell you, kicking along with 70 miles an hour, hitting in and out on curves, but old Leo would be laying right in the catch, baby. And that wheel would be going clickety-clackety on the rails, and that head of steam would have itself a heavy, but you know the sound.
Choo-choo!
Oh, no, baby, not choo-choo. It was like, choo, 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 yeah, choo. There it is. Woo!
For those who have been to the theater, the experience is still considered a cultural event. But now in Louisiana, all types of theater are shared by people of all colors and walks of life. If Supper's success clears up only one uncertainty, it's the fact that if a theater production is offered at a widely affordable price of admission, and if the audience can see their life portrayed on stage, theater could once again become a multicultural tradition that everyone can enjoy. The local musical hit Supper, composed by Valerian Smith, will be performed in New Orleans during the Bayou Classic. The play is also scheduled to go on tour sometime in 1983. Another form of theater which isn't as popular today as it used to be is the opera. A few weeks ago, the newly formed Baton Rouge Opera opened with Aida. The opera's star, Esther Hinds, talked with Folks reporter Huel Perkins about the opera and how this European form of theater relates to non-European people.
The glamour of show business and the performing arts frequently obscures the years of hard work and training that must precede success. Even then, few performers ever reach the point where they can support themselves solely through their talents. Some would argue that the odds against success are greater for the black performer than his white counterpart, and they would say that those same odds are astronomical in the fields of classical art such as opera. But some of us beat those odds and inspire others to follow.
Well, I came up surrounded by music. By the time I was in high school, I was exposed to opera singing, and we did excerpts from operas in the voice class that we had. But also, I think one of the things that attracted me most about opera was that it included so many fields of the art. You have to know how to move, how to handle your body. So there's dance. Sometimes you're even called upon to literally dance. There's acting, and I love acting. I would at some point love to do just straight acting. I enjoy that whole creative kind of thing in terms of just creating either an atmosphere or becoming somebody totally different. And of course I love to sing.
Esther Heinz is a black soprano who makes her living on the classical concert stage. By any standard, she is a star, having performed before audiences around the world. But this month found her in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, singing the lead role in Giuseppe Verdi's Aida, the first production of the newly formed City Opera Company. At the age of 39, Esther Heinz has been singing professionally more than half of her life. She is a woman proud of herself, and her ability.
A child is not born knowing how to love or knowing that it has good in itself. It has to be taught. It has to be nurtured. If that's not done, then it kind of flounders around and catch as catch can. There's no guarantee that you're going to get a whole person out of that. It'll be a human being, but what kind? What has to happen is there has to be an all-inclusive attitude in terms of how you prepare your children for life. Our lives as black people have to be lived in the world, and the world has all sorts of people. And black issues have to center themselves around the glaring fact that it is all-inclusive. You have to make sure that you have developed your skills to the highest possible level. Being very specific, if you have to take voice lessons, well, you have to be very you have to make sure that you do your study, make sure that you study your languages, your Italian, your German, your English, your diction, etc. You have to do these things, these basic skills. And just speaking personally, the art of survival is knowing who and what you are as a person, period.
Opera has been staged in America for almost 2 centuries, but it wasn't until 1920 that a black tenor named Roland Hayes was invited to concertize on the legitimate stage. It was 1955 before opera great Marian Anderson was cast in a leading role at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. Even now, Esther Hinds speaks of the business of opera, and as have other black performers before her, she says she's felt the pressure of having to prove herself over and over again to skeptical producers and audiences.
It's part of the same history that we've known all of our lives. It is that not enough of us are allowed in. Earlier I was mentioning that the same number of singers, the same number of outstanding black artists in this country are the same number of outstanding black artists the world over. They are the same people. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other artists who are out here who are capable. But the system yet has not adjusted itself to the fact that we are here and intend to remain, and are capable. Also, there's this funny kind of a spiral that at the point at which an artist is to be schooled and encouraged, if he or she is not schooled and encouraged at that particular time, by the time they come to the other end where they should be prepared and should be ready, they will not be prepared and will not be ready, because in this business, a good voice is just not enough.
Why does it seem to be the case that black female operatic singers achieve a greater level of success than their male counterparts?
I think that is connected to a combination of things. The presence of the black female against the white male image is certainly not anything new. Historically, we know that that's always been acceptable. But when you reverse that and you have the white male, the black male who is the lover, the tenor is usually the lover, and the female is the recipient of that love, as you say. That image on the stage somehow is objectionable to those people who are in the positions of authority to say, I will or will not hire such and such an artist, based on that. I am convinced, however, that the audience are not the people who are disturbed, because first of all, the theater is a world of illusions. And if I am capable of creating for you an image of anything, I do Butterfly. Butterfly is Japanese. I don't have any Japanese in my background, yet I have an affinity for her. I can move like her. I can think like her. That's not bothersome to the audience as long as you can produce. Okay, so initially, it will register, oh, he is black and she is white, depending on where you are. If they're unused to seeing that will register. But if you can be Rodolfo in terms of how you act or how you sing, then that's acceptable. And the majority of operatic roles were not written, with our history in mind or the stereotypical history in mind. They would be European figures, etc., etc. And so that's another reason why the powers that be may feel uneasy in casting a black as a Baroque lady, let's say. But if we omit the whole question of the pigmentation and deal more with what is inside of a given personality. I can assume the elegance of a Baroque lady. I can do this gesture, I can carry my body. Why? Because I've been given a gift to do so, and that has nothing to do with the pigmentation. It has to do with your spirit. It has to do with what you've been given as an individual. So you extend the hair, or you put on the makeup, or you do whatever, and you can become whatever you need to become as an actor, as a singing actor, or as a singing actress.
Esther Heinz has assumed many roles to survive in her career and her personal life. She's a wife, mother of 3, but her commitment to her craft has never wavered. This West Indian-born New Yorker began, as have most black singers, in the church. But from there, she charted a course that led her into the concert halls of Dallas, San Francisco, and Berlin. That journey has been expensive in both time and money, she says, but well worth the sacrifice.
It has taken a while to convince various areas of the country that opera is acceptable. One of the things that helps a great deal, which is happening here in Baton Rouge, is doing opera in English so that the story is understood. And you know, like anything else, if somebody says something to you in a foreign language and you don't happen to speak that foreign language, then you don't understand whether it's being sung or spoken, right? But if it is in a language that you can understand and it has been explained to you what's happening, then you can develop a taste for it, and it's like anything else, you know. If it's good, you'll like it.
And as our understanding of the operatic form grows, Heinz says it then becomes possible to alter its content, such that black theatergoers can be treated to arias, duets, and choruses that sing of their lives and their struggles. The black audience is there, she says. They are already waiting in line.
For a black community to decide that they would like to have opera as a part of, since so many of our people have the gift to do it, first you decide that it is important to you, then you get a number of people who agree with you, which is the trick, right? A number of people who agree with you, and then some people that you can convince that it is important enough for them to put their dollars and cents behind it, because opera is a very expensive venture. I believe that there is so much drama in our everyday lives as black people. I'm not talking about going back to slavery. We've been there. We don't need to return, okay? There is enough happening right here, right now, in our everyday lives that makes wonderful theater. That's why black theater is so successful when it happens. You know, there was a couple of years ago where everything that was a hit on Broadway was black, right? Okay, well, black theater is explosive, and it's energetic because it's real. It's something that people are living with, you know, day in and day out. Now, if you take that and set it to music, you've got a hit.
And yet there are those who would say that the distance between the reality of black life and its image on stage is perhaps too great. At the level of success achieved by Esther Hinds and others is perhaps too high for most of us to reach. Although we are not all singers, we can all appreciate a good song. And the presence of this black soprano on a concert stage in Louisiana is at least an indication that there is no form of artistic expression that is beyond our ability to understand it and enjoy it. Because the best performances always entertain us and teach us if we allow them to. For Folks, I'm Huel Perkins.
Thank you, Huel. Again, we've come to the end of another program, but we hope that you're with us again next week for Folks. Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by the Friends of Louisiana Public Broadcasting.